Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to cover tips for hauling horses. Actually, tips for hauling horses, but specifically tips for hauling horses across the country, because I do get a lot of questions about what my method is to do what I do, or at least what I used to do. So, before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder that we are doing summer camps once again in Minnesota. And camps are so much fun. They're awesome. And they are for kids, teens, and adults. And I have adult only groups, and the adults will do everything that the kids do. So, camp is at Flying Colors Trapeze in Marine on St. Croix, Minnesota. It is a day camp. So, we are running camp from 9 to 3. So, if you're coming from out of town, which most of my campers are, I get campers from all over the country, even Canada. I think there's someone coming pretty far this year. I'm not going to give it away. I don't want to out them. So you will have to find housing. Some people have brought campers and camped locally because we are in the St. Croix Valley. So there's lots of beautiful bluffs and lakes that you can go camping on. There's also towns nearby. So there's hotels, Airbnbs, motels, all that fun stuff. But the horses and the equipment are provided. So in camp, we're going to learn Roman riding. We're going to learn vaulting. We're going to learn trick riding. We're going to learn liberty work. We're going to learn how to fall properly. We're going to learn some stunt stuff. We're going to take the horses swimming on the lake. We're going to put a show together, and you're going to learn not only how to be in the center ring and be performing, but how to be helpful backstage, because everyone has a part to play. It's a genre of theater, and theater is a collaborative art. So it's going to be a ton of fun. We have a lot of openings in July left, not so many in June. So check that out at flyingcolorstrapeze.com. And there is a camp that is also horses and circus. So the stunt riding camps are horses all week. And if you wanted to try the other things, they have classes for trapeze. So you could do a drop-in class to give it a shot. Or in August, there's a camp that is horses and circus. Now, you won't be with horses all day. You'll be with horses for 1 hour a day, rotating through the different horse arts. So Roman riding one day, vaulting the next day. But then during the day, you will rotate to the other circus arts. So aerial arts, flying trapeze, globe, they have a German wheel. And then we will also be putting a show together by Friday for that camp as well. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and check that out. I highly suggest it. It's a lot of fun and the only thing like it. And where the horses are provided, and they're my horses, so they're steady Eddie, been there, done that, very safe, very, horses are horses. Safety not always guaranteed, but I can proudly say that as long as we've been doing this, I've had no major accidents. Yeah, so check that out. Also, I have a Patreon. So if you enjoy the podcast, which are general conversations that we sometimes get into philosophy and some of those journal articles and training, then my Patreon, we go much deeper into it. You can check that out. The Patreon account is Horsemanship Unlocked. I have different tiers. So if you want to see these podcasts a week early with the visual, those come out a week early for the halt level, and that is $5 a month. And then there is walk, where you get these early in addition to Q&A sessions where I will answer questions in a video format. Trot is all the above, plus we get into scientific journal articles. So actually, after I record this podcast, I got one right here. So we'll go through it. And I always give a PDF of the sources so you can go back and find them for yourself. And then Canter includes all of that, plus behind the scenes. So I take videos of me working in lessons or working horses, and I go back and review them with you where I describe what's going on. So that's an awesome kind of extra training tool. And then there's Gallup, where we include one-on-one lessons through Zoom or video, or Zoom or phone call. So I can watch you and your horse and then give you some feedback for more distance learning. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. But other than that, let's get right into it. Please forgive me for it is late April. The spring is blooming, the trees are out, and therefore so are my allergies. I actually just got allergy tested yesterday. Sure enough, the doctor was like, "Yeah, you were right. You're allergic to everything." So if I sound a little nasally, a little congested, that is why. But today, since we had a guest last week, I wanted to do another solo one. And then, not last week, 2 weeks ago. And then in 2 weeks, we'll have another guest covering a very different topic. So today, I wanted to just answer some questions when people are curious about the lifestyle I lived, how I did it, because I traveled the country coast to coast multiple times with my horses. Now they are getting older. They have told me in their own way that they are done. So we are done traveling and I'm tired too. So I'm cool with it. And I have no regrets though. It was right for us at the time. And now they say that you are always attracted to what you need. So right now we need stability and some healing. And I still love traveling, but now it's my turn to travel without them. And they get to live the good life at home and hang out, do lessons, hang out with kids and people giving them the attention, hang out on the round bale. So it's worked out divinely as timing usually does. But let's talk about what I used to do and some tips and some things I learned. Now, this is just my experience. I'm not telling you what to do. You can take, whatever you want. Just listen to the story I'm about to tell, or maybe you can take some of that and use it when you're hauling too. So when I first started hauling horses, it was because across the country, I had my own trailer. I would go back and forth bringing my horse to college and home when I was home on breaks. And that was my first experience hauling horses. And that's short stuff. So that was a 2-horse bumper pull trailer. As I started to perform and become a part of that community, traveling all the time, not having my own zip code, right? Things changed a bit, and so did my methodology. So the biggest thing is that the horses needed to be comfortable on the trailer. I worked a lot with trailer loading, and when I often went from clinics or gigs, it was 4 horses. Eventually, after I collected all of them and the trailer was full and I said no more, it was 4 horses and one of me. And people would gawk in awe at the fact that I could stand at the base of the trailer with all 4 horses, unclip their lead rope one at a time, and they would walk themselves in. Because if we were going to go coast to coast all over the place, the only thing that was familiar to those horses was me, each other, and that trailer. But for horses, if you have dealt with trailer loading before, it's scary. It's the ultimate claustrophobic area. It's a cave on wheels. So for a prey animal, that is a death sentence, right? Any predator can just trap them and they are trapped from their feet to the ceiling, from side to side. So in order to prepare to be on the road, we worked a lot on getting comfortable in the trailer. And now if you were to come to me for lessons on trailer loading, I am not a result-driven person. I am a journey-driven person. So sometimes horses get pushed too far, too fast. Sure, you got them on the trailer, but they were completely stressed out in order to get there. And now next time you go to trailer, it's going to take you twice as long to get them on the trailer. So in order to get them comfortable with the trailer, and especially if we're driving 5, 8 hours, I want them to be able to relax, eat their food, drink their water. If you've been also training with me, I often talk about this hierarchy of the horse's needs to learn and to be comfortable. At the bottom is safety. If they're not safe, they cannot learn, they will not eat, all those things. So it's safety. Let me just go through it really quick. It'll make more sense. Safety, comfort, food, play. Have you ever had a horse that won't eat on a trailer? Yep. That's because if they don't feel safe and they don't feel comfortable, food is above that, so they will not eat. So the fact that your horse will eat on the trailer, relax, means that they feel safe and they feel comfortable. Horses feeling safe and comfortable on a trailer when you're going very far is very important because you're going to prevent ulcers or other things that will cause stress. And if they don't feel comfortable, they might not eat. You see a lot of horses get on the trailer, come off the trailer, lose a bunch of weight because they don't feel comfortable eating. The biggest thing is ulcers. So that's how I figured out that we were done being on the road. Fez has gone to California, to New York at least twice, Vegas, from Florida to Vegas and back at least twice. And these are separate trips. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois area to Florida. I cannot even count how many times we've done that trip. He's been great. As he got older, as he went through a little bit of trauma, being sick, being in a quarantine stall, he got more stressed out. He didn't want to eat so much. And so I noticed at his later, as he got older, people think that older horses are easier. That's not necessarily the case. And then professionals in the field will agree with me. And the fact that as they get older, their eyesight starts to go, they get a little set in their ways. So they actually, just like a human, start to digress a little bit, and they really need their routines and their comfort. And that's fine. That is the process. That is the aging process. Things that a 10-year-old horse used to do, a mid-20s horse no longer needs to do and hold up to those journeys and those things and those standards. It always makes me giggle when people have a 6-year-old, 7-year-old horse and they say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he did all these things and he was okay with all these things." And I say, "I'm not surprised. He's a sponge. He's literally just absorbing everything, and he's so confident and he's so young and he's ready to go." Whereas an older horse, you know, retirement comes for everybody, every living thing that has had a hobby or a job. So Fez was not eating so much anymore. We ended with doing more ulcer preventative, and I will get into that too. And that helped us for quite a while until it didn't, and then we were done traveling. But moral of the story is that you want your horse comfortable in the trailer. So I will often not just push for the trailer loading, but I will park that trailer and just let them be comfortable there. Stand in there, have the door open as they stand and can come off freely. If you can put that trailer in a field or a paddock with them, have them enclosed in the area and let them come on and off that trailer freely. And when they go on the trailer, there's a big reward. They're eating their dinner in there. They're getting treats in there. They're going to play in the trailer. They're going to eat in the trailer. So therefore, they're going to meet their safety, comfort, and then food, and then play. And you're going to have a good time hauling that horse. If you push or you only focus on trailering when you leave the property, there's going to be an issue. Trailering is a separate thing to train and work on before you start putting it into motion. Just being on the trailer, just being comfortable in the trailer, just playing with the trailer, and then taking little trips, coming back and being rewarded and feeling comfortable. So obviously, if my horses are going to haul across the country, I definitely want them to feel safe and feel comfortable on the trailer. And I want them to eat because we're going, across the country. If they are not eating, that hydrochloric acid is building up in their stomach, and then you get stomach ulcers. So eating is also very important while you trailer. For me, I didn't care if I was going an hour away or 8 hours away. I want food in my horse's stomach so that it does not sit empty with acid buildup. Okay, so a hay bag is also going to bring them some comfort. If the horse is not eating the hay in front of them while they're on the trailer, you got to go back and you got to check the boxes of safety and comfort first. And you have to do the things to help them feel safe and comfortable before they start eating and playing with the trailer. So we would haul. I would keep water on me. If I ever ended up on the side of the road, I would have water. I would keep water in front of the horses. Sometimes they don't drink, but it was for my peace of mind. And remember, I'm not telling you what to do. This is my experience and my story. But you guys, if you know me, you know I put on the miles and we made it through the journeys we did. So I would at least keep a half a bucket of water full. I wouldn't put a full bucket of water because we'd be driving, it would be sloshing around, but I wanted there to be the option. And if their hay got wet, that's okay. Then they're coughing less, then they have some hydration going through them. Sometimes I would put electrolytes in the water to encourage them to drink. There's some hay, like bricks of dehydrated hay that you can put in the water to encourage them to eat and encourage them to have some water going through their system. If you guys have experience with colic, you know that you're looking for hydration because impaction sometimes happens because of dehydration. So water and hay. And I kept extra hay with me. Even if I was going on a 1-day trip, I kept extra hay in front of me. You don't know if you're going to be on the side of the road. With that being said, oh, and then the big Hinkley type jugs of water, I would keep a couple of those full of water if I didn't have a water tank on my trailer, so that if I ended up on the side of the road for any reason, I still had water to give my horses, especially if it was summer and it would start to get hot. When we would travel and it would be warm, and if you're in a stock trailer or in a trailer where you can put the windows down, fly masks. You don't know if you're on the highway and then something from a truck or someone's cigarette butt is going to fly behind you and get into the trailer. So I would have eye protection over the horses. Fly masks are great. I left their heads loose. I did not tie them. And if you were to tie, but they were not in a stock trailer. They had their own sections. Okay. They were good boys. They have lots of miles on them. So my horses were not they were comfortable. So that was their time to eat and hang out. They were not kicking at the trailer and stuff like that. So obviously, if you're training a horse, this is not training advice. This is my story of how I would travel. My horses were very comfortable. I had heard a story about someone getting in a trailer accident and a horse that was untied. The trailer flipped and the horse was able to, freely move itself so that once they opened those doors on that flipped trailer, the horse was standing upright. So that was why I kept my horses untied. But like I said, I had nice big padded dividers. So they were not going under anything. They were calm boys, so they were not kicking and moving around and trying to turn around. And I could stand on the side of the trailer, unclip their lead rope, and they would walk right into their spot. So that's what I did not with horses in training, with horses that already had so many miles on them getting comfortable. But if I were to tie a horse, I definitely would make sure that it was a quick release type of tie or contraption. I wouldn't just tie that lead rope up. Okay. Or a breakaway halter. That was the next thing. You have a nylon halter with a leather crown. So if something happened, that leather crown would break and then you can replace them, but they could free themselves and release themselves from whatever was holding them. Okay. I've never had to use it. I've never had a halter break, but it was there in case we ran into that type of situation. Always keep your lead ropes, because if you're on the side of the road, you want to let those horses off, tie them up, let them graze, take them for a walk, water. Now, let's talk about the stops I would make and how long I would travel for, because that's the biggest question I get when people want to know what I used to do. Here's a glare on my glasses. Here we go. When I first started big hauls, it was with a show. It was with a company where they would keep the horses on the trailer overnight. And they would keep food in front of them and keep water in front of them. And then, of course, it's a very confined space. It's a very long time, and you get leg stocking and whatnot. My perspective is, how would I feel, right? So if I'm itching to get out of my seat because I'm driving and I'm sitting in a car, I would just imagine that a big animal on little stick legs would also want to get out of the vehicle. So when I personally traveled later on, as I learned through the years, I would always stop. So there's an amazing website called horsemotel.com. And I often didn't call places until the day of because I was trying to figure out where I was going. If I planned my trip too far in advance, I left no wiggle room. And when you're hauling, manure happens. And I've been on the side of the road plenty of times. Later on, I invested in bigger, better, nicer trailers, more repairs on my truck, and this happened less and less. But in the beginning, just starting out, not having a lot of money, you kind of do what you can do, and you don't know any better, and then you end up on the side of the road a lot a lot more frequently. So being on the side of the road, I suggest having some step-in fencing and electric tape with a power box, because you could always set up a little paddock if your horses were respectful of electrical fencing and small temporary electrical fencing. It'd be easy to be on the side of the road and wait for help if you can let your horses be out and be comfortable and have their needs met. And then you have your own food and water. You're good. You can wait. You can get repairs done. Picket lines are great too. So a picket line is what a lot of people use for camping. You can tie it to a tree, and then you can tie it to the top of your trailer. Pull your trailer forward until your line is up high and tight. And then you would tie the horses above you so they can move, walk around, but they're not going to get their legs stuck. You would like to tie it. It's a science. You got to get experience with it. I was taught to tie it so they had a nice loop. They could lay down, but they can't get their legs over it. So you can make your horses nice and comfortable and secure if you don't have that electrical fencing and you want to let them off the trailer. But yeah, being on the side of the road happens. So obviously your spare tires, knowing how to change a tire, but also having a backup like a US Rider. I personally use AAA. I have found more luck with AAA than US Rider. Some people have great, great, great reviews with US Rider. I do not. I've waited very long, and they were just being a middleman. So I had taken matters into my own. US Rider is not going to come, kind of like AAA, like it's not going to come do the work for you. It is a middleman to find a service to do it for you. But I found faster. Here's the thing with AAA, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. They don't cover horse trailers, but they cover RVs. So if your trailer has a living quarter, it's an RV. So AAA Premium has always come to my aid, always come to my side, has picked up my I had a transmission crack on I-70 out in Colorado. Not a great place to have any of that happen. And they have picked up my trailer with my horses, and they have picked up my truck. I have waited very, very, very long for US Rider until I took matters into my own hands. I was out on the side of the road in Montana. I just got brand new tires, and my whole wheel, not the tire, the whole wheel just plunk right off. I almost didn't notice it. When you shred a tire, you can usually feel it, but this just went plunk. So someone was driving next to me. We made eye contact, and they're like, they're signaling to me that my tire, flew off. So finally I pull over, and the lug nuts are broken. So generally what that means is that you had your lug nuts too loose or too tight. I just left Discount Tire. I was in Montana, so not even a week prior in Colorado. Oh, that's giving me a thumbs up. Interesting. Okay. This Zoom this is so silly. So Discount Tire actually covered everything because I needed a new drum and I needed new tires. So the lug nuts were done too tight by the company. And I waited. I had my water, they had their buckets, but it was hot out, and I waited for a very long time to hear back from US Rider, and they were not able to help me. This is like outside of Billings, Montana, on 94 in the middle of nowhere. So back to that horse motel, hopped on horsemotel.com, found one like 6 miles away, called them. They welcomed me in, drove very slowly and carefully with 3 tires, and then secured my horses. and got my trailer to a repair shop. And I took matters into my own hands. But also, when I have had AAA, they have been to my aid quickly, and I've used it and I've gotten my money's worth. And if you have premium, you get a 200-mile tow and then two 100s, and I've used them. Not very often, but the times I have, I have. So again, I'm not promoting any company. I'm not getting a promotion by any company. This is my experience. If you have US Rider and you're happy with it, awesome. Didn't work for me. If AAA is like, you can't do that, well, technically you can't have a horse trailer, but you can have an RV. My last trailer had full living quarters. It was a 40-foot trailer, a 2019. It had a slide out, it had a bathroom, it had a kitchen. It was my house. So they were fine with that. They let that qualify. Horse Motel. Let's go back to that because I keep jumping around. Horsemotel.com is a site kind of like Airbnb, where horse people can post their personal, either home, boarding stable, business as a place for travelers to overnight, get their horses off of trailers, and offer stalls, paddocks, pastures. Sometimes they even have barn apartments or a place to plug in a living quarter trailer so you can rest, sleep, let your horses loose. So I would start my journey, especially when I was on the road with other girls. Lindsay was my homegirl, getting on. I'd be driving, so I'd say, all right, pull up horsemotel.com. Let's look at the map. I would decide how many miles, how many hours I wanted to go. And as I got comfortable and a lot of experience and my horses got older, I personally didn't like overnights anymore. I think they're very dangerous to be driving overnight, driving long hours, and I don't think they're good for the horses. I don't like getting up at the crack of dawn. I like waking up slowly, feeling rested, doing my thing, and then loading up and getting out. And I like stopping before the sun goes down. Because if I'm going to a new facility, I want the sun up so I know where to park. I can see everything. I can park. I can let those horses loose. They can adapt to their environment before the sun goes down. And then I can get a good night's sleep before taking off again. What does that mean? If you have to leave 1 or 2 more days early for your trip, do it. I'm talking to myself. Like I said, you take what I say with a grain of salt, but I've put a lot of miles on my trucks and trailers and my horses. So if I had to leave a couple days early, I would, for that reason. I know people who've been in accidents, driving in the middle of the night, driving tired. I don't like to do that. And it's kind of just the funny thing of life. Like if you make yourself a really crunch time frame, that's when you run into issues. That's when you pop a tire, when you're on a deadline. If you're not on a deadline and you give yourself time, it's usually, and this is my experience, it's usually smooth sailing. You arrive with plenty of time. You took your time. You didn't get any speeding tickets. You were rested. You enjoyed the trip. No problems. If you need to, give yourself extra time, especially if you have horses that are not super sure about trailer loading. Give yourself extra time. If you do not have a horse that's good with trailer loading, give yourself extra time because that pressure of yours, your burden of pressure becomes the horse's burden, and it's not their fault. It's not fair. So I think the longest trip I ever did in one run was from San Francisco area, California, back to the Chicago suburbs. And I did not go on 70 or 80 through the mountains with my big heavy trailer. I went down the state of California over to 40, and I was at a horse motel in like that northern Amarillo part of Texas, and the trailer parked next to me had Washington plates. They were coming all the way from Washington State across, and they also took 40 as the most northern route that they could because there was already snow in the mountains, and with those steep passes and inclines, that's not something a heavy horse trailer wants to deal with. So and it took me 5 days, but it could have taken me less. I wanted to be rested. I wanted to let those horses off the trailer every day. And I didn't want to go more than I would go about 500 miles, which is about 8 hours. That was enough for me and the horses, I think. Kind of like turtle, tortoise in the hare, slow and steady instead of rushing. So when we would hop in, I would plan my approximately 500-mile route, and then I would tell my navigator, look at the map, see what's around. So she would, look where we were going to try to land with 8 hours of driving and enough time to park with the sun up, get settled into our horse motel. And she would start contacting places. A lot of them would let us come that night. Like I said, if I started to plan too early, I didn't have flexibility, right? And aside from horse motel, there's also fairgrounds. Those are cheaper, great places to stop. But horse motel, I felt like I was talking to a professional, and I would specifically ask for paddocks or pasture. Sometimes all I got were stalls. However, I felt like they were already standing all day, so I wanted them to be able to move. And sure enough, 8 hours of traveling, you take those horses off of a trailer and you let them in a pasture and they run. They run. It feels so good for them to stretch their legs. And I felt like that, being able to stretch their legs, run, lay down, rest, be with each other, was how they easily made it through long trips. And me too, right? Parking the trailer, cleaning out the trailer, getting it ready for the next day. Sometimes not being able to shower, but sometimes being able to shower, get cleaned up, get dinner, have a nice dinner, and have a nice sleep. So the biggest takeaway of all the years I've been traveling was not to rush. They usually charge, this was pre-pandemic, they usually charge like $20 a stall or $20 a horse and then $20 a plug-in. But $100, $150 in the scheme of things is going to save you so much instead of trying to just keep those horses on the trailer, deal with injuries, stocked legs, ulcers. It was worth it. If you can't invest $150, and I had 4 horses. So imagine having one horse. Imagine having 2 horses. Okay, $40 and then your plug-in. Less than $100. If you can't invest $100 per night to stay on a cross-country trip, there needs to be a little bit of reevaluation, because then I don't feel like the horse's needs and your needs are coming first. Okay. Especially if we were traveling to a show or a clinic, I wanted to arrive with healthy, rested horses, not with exhausted, stressed out horses. And then we got a job to do. That is not fair, in my opinion. That is not fair to be asking them of that when they already have no choice in the matter. I'm not here to get into activism, but I always do a little bit because my voice is for the voiceless. Horses didn't ask to be here or ask to do the things that we make them do, and they are very forgiving and very willing to participate in the things that we drag them through in this human-run world. So the least we can do is do the best that we can. So, other things to consider: alfalfa. I like to give specifically alfalfa if your horses are a little used to it. Of course, you can't just give them grass their whole life and then throw alfalfa at them. That's not really fair. But alfalfa is extra calcium, so it's kind of like horses eating Tums. If they're getting a little nervous, not so much eating, getting a little gas buildup, little acid buildup, it's like eating Tums, so you're less likely to have ulcers. If you do have a horse that's older, gets stressed out, has a history of ulcers, there are so many products out there that you can be using. Obviously, the big one is GastroGuard or UlcerGuard. You give them doses leading up to when you're traveling and while you're traveling and afterwards. Cutting the acid, being able to allow the stomach to heal itself, and GastroGuard will latch on to the ulcer. There's other omeprazole products. I'm not one to get into this, but I usually use Gastro and UlcerGuard as recommended by the vet. My understanding is the reason it's so expensive is because it has a patented ingredient to actually reach the hindgut and latch onto the ulcers, that if you just get a knockoff omeprazole, you're not going to be able to do that. But that doesn't mean you can't use the other products as a preventative. It's just if you definitely have them and you need to treat them, why not invest in the stuff that's actually going to work? Otherwise, you might be throwing your time and your money away and not having results. So I was using GastroGuard or UlcerGuard to treat. I was using other off-brand like Abler, omeprazole products to prevent. And I'm even doing alfalfa pellets to help. Baking soda with coconut oil is a thing. Like I said, I'm not an herbalist. I'm not a vet. This is just products I used and what I've had experience with. I currently feed Outlast, Purina Outlast. It's a pelleted feed. It'll help cut the acid before something stressful like training. With my older horses, sometimes even going in stalls if we have a storm. So they're dry lotted with a shelter. But if we get bad weather, I put them in. And if they haven't been in a while, it's a little stressful. I'll even give them that, a half a scoop as a treat, cut the acid a little bit, just to help them through any stressful situation to prevent some gastric upset, ulcer, or colic. And you might as well invest in the preventative, because the results of not doing preventative are going to be way more expensive, way more stressful, and way more harmful, painful to the horse, your wallet, than investing in the preventative stuff, in my experience and opinion. So helping them out, helping them with stress. I also use natural calming products. Why not? If a little lavender in the nasal, I don't do this one often. I'll buy Vitacalm with tryptophan and magnesium. I think it works great. And for their well-being, why not naturally, without sedatives or drugs, why not naturally knock the edge off? If they are less stressed, they're going to feel safer, they're going to feel more comfortable, and then you're going to deal with less ulcery symptoms if you give them a little bit of a natural herb calming. People taking magnesium. I have friends that had a lot of stress and anxiety, started taking magnesium, and they felt so much better. It doesn't hurt anything. You were probably maybe deficient in it. Might as well just, it's not expensive. Might as well just take a little bit to help out. So I'll do things like that. Let them off every night. Like I said, plan a trip with plenty of time. Have your tools. Know your route, but be flexible. Okay. When I would do clinics, and it was a weekend clinic, I would arrive on Friday and I would leave on Monday. After working an 8-hour day myself, I did not want to drive, and then the horses too. I never, unless it was very close, like I've done some clinics that are an hour away, I would still arrive the night before with the horses and then maybe leave that night if I knew I could arrive with daylight and could park not in the dark. I have been to a big shrine circus that at the end of the night, they kick you out. So you work 3 shows that day, you got to do all your tear down, and then you got to leave. I then again, instead of keeping my horse in the trailer after he worked for me all day doing 3 shows, instead of just putting him in the trailer, I found a horse motel locally so he could have a comfortable paddock or a comfortable stall and be able to rest after he worked for me all day, and I could sleep instead of just taking off in the middle of the night. Limited visibility, exhaustion. Those are not things that usually that promise. Nothing is promised. Nothing's guaranteed. You can be nice and rested, have a nice dry day, and you can still have, an accident. But I'm going to do the best I can to eliminate those things. Circus is hard because it's a lifestyle. But if you begin to treat the lifestyle more like a job, I've noticed that I actually gave myself stronger boundaries. I didn't work myself or exhaust myself too much to the bone. And then it's helped with the longevity of my animals and the well-being of my animals. So, some things to consider. What other questions may we have about traveling across the country with horses? My preference is gooseneck trailers, not bumper poles. You got what you got, you do what you do. I indeed do want a bumper pole because they're easy to navigate and move around. So if I need to go to the vet or pick up some hay, great, easy to have a bumper pole. I find that a gooseneck is much safer as it is in your truck bed instead of at the bumper. So less likely to knock off that ball, easier to navigate, easier to stay standing upright when you're taking turns and whatnot. So that is my preference personally. And I've hauled a lot of different types of trailers. I had drop down windows on the front and the back. Sometimes things got hot. Something you can do, which was a little tip that I found out from a friend, is if it's really hot and you're hauling, is that you can throw ice into the trailer, into the bedding, and it will cool down the internal temperature of the trailer. So once upon a time when I was younger, I did some summer camps down south until I stopped doing them because it was too hot and it was too miserable for all parties involved. And, money's just a printed piece of paper. It became not worth it. But when I did used to do the down south summer camps, I would find myself throwing ice in the trailer to cool down and keep those horses cooler. Have your Coggins. Don't, don't, why would you? I know they can be expensive if you have a lot of animals and they're adding up. Have your Coggins, have your health certificate. You will be stopped in the state of Florida or California and potentially anywhere in between, although those were the designated ag stops I would see. But I went to Florida a lot, and it was funny because I can get from Minnesota, basically the Canada border, all the way to Tallahassee, Florida, coming down through Alabama, and not have an ag stop. But I couldn't go from a clinic in Tallahassee, Florida to 2 hours away in Jacksonville, Florida without stopping at an agriculture stop. If you go by them, they will get in their cop car, security car, patrol car, and they will come find you and pull you over. If your horse trailer is empty, stop. They don't know that it's empty. They just see a horse trailer go by and they will come find you and pull you over. So again, travel with extra time so you can stop and you can do things properly. Have your health cert and your Coggins ready, your driver's license, you pull in, you show them, they come check your horses, you go. And you want to tell them where you're coming from and where you're heading to. So I did quite a few clinics right there in the Panhandle and would have to stop at the ag stop. It was not a big deal. Okay. What's a big deal is if you are not prepared and you blow right through them. Same thing out west. You're close to the Mexican border, so they're going to stop you. They want to check your produce, your livestock. Just have your paperwork ready, have it up to date, have it good to go. Okay. That was a big one. I'm glad I covered that. Have your plates and your registration all up to date. Trust me, when I was a young person starting on the road, things are expensive to maintain, but take that as a warning sign. If you can't maintain these things, you're not ready, because while you may think your registration sticker is stupid, that you're not going to win that argument once you do get pulled over by law enforcement. Um, yes, diet's good. aside from your horses having the things they need, it's good to make sure you have the things you need, things to change tires, things to, flares, uh, a reflective vest if you're on the side of the road, and you can make yourself a little kit and just have the kit, under one of your seats in your truck. Blankets, if you are hauling in the winter and your truck breaks down and you don't have heat, man, you're gonna get cold pretty fast. So having extra layers on hand. If you have your living quarter trailer, you probably have all your clothes and stuff with you. Um, big one, big one. Ooh, I can't believe I almost forgot this one. Having your own emergency kit for your animals. So a vet friend, you heard that I didn't have extra Banamine or something on hand, and she was like, I will get you your kit. And most vets that know you're a competent, intelligent horse owner will prescribe you the things you need. Like if you have a colic and you call the vet, they might say, you got Banamine? Yep. Okay, give them 11 cc's in the mouth. I'll be there, in an hour. Having those things can save your horse's life. I've had a horse colic overnight in the middle of the night, and boy, am I so grateful that I had Banamine on me. Bute, so grateful I've had Bute on me. Dex, I have one horse with heaves and asthma. These are things that you check with your veterinarian about, okay? And if you don't think you are educated about these drugs and how to use them, I'm with my animals every day, all day. I could run a stable, right? And I've been doing it for over 20 years. If you're just new to the game, learn about those things, get into the husbandry, get into the daily routines. If you're boarding and you're just showing up to ride after work, educate yourself on these things, because once you leave with that trailer, you're like the boarding stable owner. You got to keep your eyes and your ears open, and you got to do checks and health checks and be ready to know when they need medical assistance. Because the other thing, here's another good one. Make sure wherever you're going, a show, a clinic, that those people have a good relationship with their vets. Because if you call a vet in the middle of the night, it might go to recording, and the voice recording answer is usually, if you are an established client, call this number or stay on the line for emergency. If you are not their established client, they're not going to come out for an emergency call. So I find it very important that I have a good relationship with my vet. You take care of the people that take care of your animals. Tip your dentist, tip your vet, pay your bill on time. If you move, just have your vet out for Coggins and vaccines and just a general wellness checkup, just to establish a relationship with your vet. Because if you take care of the people who take care of your animals, they're going to take care of you. If you have an emergency and you're the kind of flaky person and you don't pay your vet bill, and there's another emergency going on with a very good, reputable client, they're going to go to that one. That's how it's relationships. That's how it works. So have a good relationship with your vet so you can text your vet questions or be able to call them, and they're going to come and they're going to put you as a priority, because you take care of them, they take care of your animals, and you take care of your animals. That's why you're taking care of them, right? So when you leave your property and you're going not just in the region, but like me, across the country, you don't have your vet anymore. You need to rely on wherever you're going to have a good relationship with their vet, so that if you have an emergency, they can call their vet. They have a good relationship. They're a client that is attentive and reputable and pays their bills. And so they're going to come out for you. but they're going to come out for that person who's doing it for you. So have a good relationship with your client, your show coordinator, whoever it may be, and make sure that they have a good relationship with their vet and that they will come out in the middle of the night in emergency, because I've learned the hard way about that as well. Middle of the night type of colic, I'm asking the resident of the place, I'm like, who is your vet? Call your vet. Call your vet for me. I don't have relationships with these vets across the state. And I, you know, sometimes you are giving that up. If you don't want to give up that power, don't leave. Don't leave. But if you're going to leave, be prepared. And it's as simple as when you're making your plans, go, hey, do you have a good relationship with your vet? That I'm asking, if I have an emergency while I'm there, can you call your vet and will they come to you in the middle of the night? So, ooh, that's an important one. Very, very important. Very important. As time went on, and I was on the road for 10 years, and I was young when I started, I became a lot stricter. I became a lot pickier about where I was going, where I was stopping. Learned the hard way many times about what not to do, what not gigs to take, who not to work with, who not to trust, and who to trust, what precautions to take, and then investing a lot more in preventative things than the repercussions or the aftermath of taking a gamble. Some, and this was more for, if you're going to a show, it's pretty different. You're investing. When you're doing a gig, someone's investing in you. So you can also have them check those boxes for you. Charge what you need to charge in order to consider your oil change, consider the monthly bill of your AAA, divide whatever you pay. If you pay every year, every 6 months, divide that by 12 and consider that in your price, because it's not just the work you're doing, it's everything leading up to it. And if you're showing, well, then your job, your day job, you need to consider the other things. It's just not the show entry. It's all those things required to be able to travel and travel safely and travel and be healthy while you're doing it. So, I charge what I charge for clinics, and it's been working for me. And I know that there's people out there that charge more, and I know that there's people out there that charge less. But, over the years, my price went up, inflation went up, all those things. But then I was having more vet visits. I was, using more GastroGuard, and GastroGuard's not cheap. So I have to consider that into my work, into the price, because it's not just about me showing up and teaching for 2 days. It's about everything else these horses need in order to do X, Y, and Z. The wear and tear of the truck, not just the fuel itself. Sure, I'm putting a lot of miles doing all these clinics, and it may cost 30 cents per gallon, but I'm charging the government standard of what has gone up actually from 2023 to 2024. So note that, look it up. It's gone up from 58 to I think 67. Don't quote me, look it up. But that's also not just going to cover your fuel. That's going to cover the wear and tear of your truck, because eventually those tires need to get rotated. Those tires need to get replaced. When you're buying new tires on a dually, you're buying 6 tires, not 4. Plus your spare. My tires on my last trailer were H-rated tires. They were steel rim. And you don't want to buy cheap tires because you start popping those left and right. So tires are amazing. It's one of the most confusing things to jump into, because the range of quality and the range of price is not even a spectrum. It's like a full circle. But if you buy those really cheap tires and you plan on putting lots of miles on them, they're not going to last, and you're going to be popping them left and right. So you might as well invest in the good ones with the warranty that are going to last, but they're expensive. They're expensive. I replaced 4 H-rated Goodyear tires on my trailer before I sold it. Yeah, just look up how much those cost. But having good tires can prevent you from having an accident. And when it comes to the price of an accident or your life or your horse's life or injury or well-being, it's worth it. It's worth not going there. I got some stories too. I can share a couple stories just about being on the side of the road. I've lost tires, I've popped tires, I've stayed at strangers' places. And I've been so grateful. One time I was driving St. Louis out to Fort Collins, Colorado, just got outside of Denver and popped two tires at once, which is who knows what happened. I don't know if I ran something over, but who carries two spares? Not usually, usually people just have one spare unless they do a lot of traveling and they run into the things that I ran into. And I've had and a storm coming. So I'm on the side of the road, two pop tires, three horses in the trailer, and a storm coming overhead. And I've had just lovely, lovely strangers see me, stop, call their neighbor. They come out, lent me a tire. I went to Discount Tire the next day, got four brand new tires, and returned his tire to him. And I was so grateful. If it wasn't for the kindness of humans, I wouldn't have faith in humanity, A, or have gotten as far as I had. Because being a young girl traveling by myself with animals on the road, a lot of humans and strangers have helped me. And I know that sounds scary, but I think my faith in myself and my faith in humans have attracted the right energy and the right humans to me. But keep that in mind, you got to be safe. You got to be prepared. You got to stay in safe areas. You have to be able to protect yourself. I had a dog. You know, a lot of people don't want to mess with someone with a dog, but my suggestion is don't even do it alone. And I've had people with me on trips. Only when I felt completely confident in myself, and maybe as a young girl, I was overconfident, right? Or I've caravanned with people, and one of us have had an accident, so we both stopped together, and follow each other and keep each other safe. So I don't suggest the alone thing, but I can say that I've done it because at clinics I would travel alone. And then towards the end, I was only staying in the Midwest. So it was not a huge deal with the experience I had, the quality of the truck and the trailer and the parts that I had, that I was able to successfully and safely travel not too far, 5 hour, 6 hour jumps by myself. But I wouldn't say go grab new experienced horses, go grab your old janky trailer and just hop in there by yourself and go across the country. Nah, not you got to be smart. You got to be smart. Yeah. Heavy episode. Lots of information that I hope you get something out of, or things that you may have not considered before. Um, what else? I think I've covered it all. If there's anything I've missed or you guys have additional questions, please, you know, don't be afraid to message me, write in the comments. If I can visit the page and see them, I will try to address them because I'm always looking for more topics to talk about. And I would love to share the things that I've learned and what I've done to help others in their horsemanship journey as well. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.